All right, boys and girls, here are the answers to your Unit 1 formative review. For number 1, it asks you to do a multi-step equation whose answer is -11. There's a lot of different answers you could have had, so I'll just show you how I did mine, and then hopefully you did yours somewhat like it. I'm going to start off with the answer, x equals -11, and I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. Then I'm going to go ahead and add 8. And when you add 8 to -22, you get -14. And right there, that's enough. That would be a multi-step equation where x equals -11. But I'm going to go ahead and add 5x to both sides. So I put variables on both sides. So now I have 7x plus 8 is equal to -14 plus 5x. And if you solve this, you'll get an answer of x equals -11. Number 2, it asks you to do a multi-step equation which has no solution. So I'm going to go ahead and remember that I want to eventually get the same number of variables on both sides, but then different numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and just make up an equation or an expression on the left side, 2m plus 6. And now on the left side, I'm going to try to get 2m, but then a different number. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do some distributive property. I'm going to put a negative sign outside the parentheses. I'm going to put an m plus 8. So if I were to distribute that negative sign, you'd get -m, and then you'd get -8. So I need to somehow end up with 2m. So I'm going to add a 3m on both sides. That way, this side will eventually become 2m -8, and this side's 2m plus 6, and this equation would never be true because it would have an answer of no solution. Here are the problems, and remember it says to solve them and then tell whether they're always true, sometimes true. And then there's a second part that said give a quantity that would not work. I'll do that for the first one, but for the others I'm just going to solve. Here you get, when you distribute, -4x plus 28, which equals -4x plus 8. Now I should notice right here the answer is going to be no solution. But I'll just prove it to you by solving it out, adding 4x to both sides. And you're left with 28 equals -4, which is obviously not true. Therefore, your answer is no solution, and that means this original equation is never true. Here, for b, it's a proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. You get x squared equals 100. Then you're going to square root both sides, and you're left with x equals 10. That means the equation is sometimes true. So it's sometimes true when I put a 10 in, and I could show that by putting a 10 in for x, and 10 over 10 is 1, and 1 will obviously equal 1. But if I put another number in, like 6, 10 over 6 does not equal 6 over 10, because 6 divided by 10 is 0.6. 10 over 6 is going to be 1 and 4 6, which is 1.6666. So these obviously are not equal, therefore that's why it's sometimes true. X can only be 10. Letter C, I distribute. And I'll distribute here. I'm going to combine like terms. Here, 2x and 3x is 5x minus 14. That's here and here. Here you get 4x and -52 and a positive 32 combined to be -20. I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides to get all my x's over to the same side. You're left with x minus 14 equals -20. I'm going to add 14 on both sides. X is equal to a -6. So this is sometimes true, and if I were to plug the -6 in, this side would equal this side. If I plug any other number in for all of my x's, it would not, both sides would not be equal. That's why I can prove it's sometimes true. Last one, before I get rid of this dividing by 4, I want to subtract this 13 on both sides so I don't have to multiply everything by 4. So now I'm left with 2x plus 12 over 4 is equal to -11 minus 13 is -24. You could multiply both these, or I'm sorry, divide both these numbers by 4. You would get 1/2 x here, and you'd get 3. But rather than that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 4 to get rid of it completely. -24 times 4 is a -96, which equals 2x plus subtract 12 on both sides. I'm going to do this up here. You end up with 2x is equal to a negative 108. And if you divide 108 by 2, you get x equals negative 54. Here, it asks you to solve for all the different variables. So it wanted you to have L equals and then an answer, W equals then an answer, and E equals. I'm just going to do one of them. I'm going to solve this for L. So I'm going to subtract 2W from both sides. Surface area, I'm just going to call that S for surface area to make it a little easier. S minus 2W is equal to 2L plus 2E. Subtract 2E from both sides. 2L is equal to S minus 2W minus 2E. Last, divide everything by 2. Remember, you could leave it like this, or you can divide everything by 2. Well, 1S divided by 2 is 1/2 S. Negative 2 divided by 2, so this right here divided by 2 is negative W, because 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. And here, negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So just here is it solved, the equation solved for L, or technically if you would have had this right here, that would have been okay as well. So the next one is look at the problem, because I'm going to read it, but I'm going to do the work up here. You have Ben, Josh, and Terry. Ben spent $8 more than Terry. Josh spent 5 times as much as Terry. Doesn't tell me anything about Terry, so I'm going to call Terry X, the X dollars spent. So if Terry spent X dollars, it says Ben spent $8 more than Terry. So that would be Ben would be whatever Terry spent plus 8. And then it says Josh spent 5 times as much as Terry, so that's 5x, 5 times as much as Terry. It says together they spent 162. So if you add up the money they spent, well, here's the money they spent. One of them spent x plus 8. The other one spent plus 5x. And Terry spent x. And if you add them up and combine them, x plus 5x plus x is 7x plus 8, which equals 162. And I'm going to solve this. Subtract 8 on both sides. So 7x equals 154. And then 154 divided by 7 is 22. So if x equals 22, that means that Terry spent $22. It means that Ben spent $30. And 5 times 22 is $110 for Josh. The next one, Moosh is 3 times Griffin's age. Easy is 5 years less than Griffin. So you don't know anything about Griffin. So we're going to say G or X for Griffin. I'll say X, which makes EG 5 years less than Griffin. So X minus 5. And then Moosh is, where does it say Moosh? Moosh is 3 times Griffin's age, so 3x. And it says together they live 30 years. So if you add up their ages, you should get to 30 years. Combine like terms, 1x plus 3x is 5x minus this 5, which is right here, equals 30. 5x, I add 5 to both sides, and I get 35. Then I divide both sides by 5, and I get x equals 7. So 7 is Griffin's age. That makes EG 2, 7 minus 5, and then Moosh is 21. All right. So what I'm going to do for the next couple, I want you to pause the video so you can see my work. And notice I label whether it's sometimes true, always true, or never true. And then I'm going to run right through them. So pause after each page so that you can watch each little page and check your work. All right. So 14, though, is a little bit different. 14, I want to show you how to do it. So it says that this triangle is an equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangles have 3 equal sides. So I know that it doesn't look like 2x plus 3 is the same as 3x minus 6, but it's saying that this is an equilateral triangle. So we know that whatever you do when you multiply 2 times x plus 3, that expression will be the same side as 3x minus 6. So our job is to find out what is x in order for these two sides to actually be equal. And if I solve this equation, and I get x equals 9, that's the x. That's not the side length. That's what x has to be for these two sides to be equal. So if I go ahead and plug in, just to double check, 2 times 9, so instead of 2 times x, 2 times 9 plus 3, you get a side length of 21 units. So I know that this side should equal 21 units because it's an equilateral triangle, but let's just double check. Instead of 3x, we know x is 9. 3 times 9 minus 6, 27 minus 6, you also get 21 units. So x becomes 9. If I asked you for the sides, it would be 21 units. I hope that helped. Please be sure that I'll also post the same video to Westland Math if you want to look at it tonight.